2 years ago, you helped us to create the Black Void core rulebook. Since then, we've gone on harrowing and wondrous journeys together. And now, we want to take you even further into the void with this grand campaign, travelogue, and sourcebook merged into one comprehensive work. In this first part of the Grand Campaign trilogy, a desperate cry for help leads the protagonists deep into the underworld of Kima, amongst nefarious gangs amassing wealth, power, crushing or enslaving anyone getting in their way. As unknown powers haunt the fringes of awareness, threatening the very subsistence of humanity, reconciling the fractured and clashing human factions of Lin might bring benefit to us all. But playing them out against each other to gain the advantage may possibly be the only viable option to uncover the aspirations of an obscure entity with its gaze fixed firmly on the descendants of Earth. The character creation section is a quintessential resource for players and arbiters alike, offering new and remarkable possibilities when creating characters and NPCs. New attributes and background options now enable players to play half-blood characters such as half-Talath, half-JL, and others. Multiple new weapons and combat skills add further possibilities and excitement to combat, while resources for outfitting and crewing your own Void vessel gives a whole new range of possibilities for exploring the Void and Cosmos. The Voidfarer's travelogue explores the slums of Kima and the thronged docks and inner areas of the Darisi district. Each area description is packed with numerous locations, maps, NPCs, plot hooks, and more to breathe life into these two remarkable districts of Lin the Eternal. The species section provides new horrific threats for whom humanity is nothing but pests or sustenance, while known beasts get full profile and stat blocks, and new sentient species bring added diversity and variety to NPCs, antagonists, and allies. We need your help to make this book the best it can be, retaining the Black Void standard of abundant, high-quality art, beautifully laid out pages, enticing writing, and premium production printing. We'll see you in the Void, where survival is only the beginning.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So good to see you all again. I know it's been so long. How we all doing? Good evening, Chaos Chorus. I am Colin at Colinomicon. I'm going to be your host this evening, talking with Christoffer Sevaldsen, the creator of Black Void, which, as you just heard me ramble, is one of my favorite damn TTRPGs out there. So good to have you this evening, Christoffer. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you. Well, here it's morning because I'm in Singapore, but still doing great.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, scheduling with a 13-hour time delay is a thing, but we managed to make it work.
It's what you gotta get used to. Yeah, exactly.
And Christoffer, I imagine you're doing pretty good right now because your Kickstarter for Nebulous Skies is now fully funded as of early this morning. Yes!
I know! It's amazing! Yay!
And I see we just got, in the time since I started babbling, we got a new backer. I want to believe it was one of you in there. If you were the new backer, please stand up and be counted so we can thank you. But Christoffer is now on 506 backers, $19,750, over the $9,022 goal, and on the way to that first stretch goal, which, as we said, is that... oh, it was Anna! It was Anna. Thank you, Anna. That was Nymeria Streams in chat, who was our 506th backer. But yes, on our way to the first stretch goal, which is that gorgeous map that Christoffer and
Yes.
I both want very bad. So
We
please,
do.
please keep backing so we can get that gorgeous piece of art. So,
Yeah.
Christoffer, I, as you just heard me ramble, am a Black Void fanboy. It is an honor to be talking to you, and I'm just so grateful to you for making this gorgeous game. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about, for those who are not familiar, is what kind of game is Black Void? I mean that mechanically, and then also sort of setting-wise and thematically. How does this game work?
Right. Well, mechanically, it's based on the D12 because I wanted to really sort of focus on the dramatics of having a higher chance of rolling exceptional successes and dramatic failures, which is obviously higher on a D12 than it is on a D20. And then it's based on the tenet of simplicity grants diversity. So everything is done more or less the same way to make it really sort of easy to grasp the rules, which then enhances what you can do about it, because you don't have to spend so much time thinking about what is the rules for doing this, what's the rules for doing that, because everything is basically done in the same sort of way. Which really sort of supports the narrative in terms of you being able to focus on the fun stuff, which is basically telling a story. So basically it's you roll D12, you add some modifiers, and you roll against a difficulty, and if you meet or exceed that difficulty, hey, you've done your thing. And that's basically how it works. So there's a lot of tables in the core book because I like tables.
I love tables. Big fan of tables.
It might, yeah, exactly. It might seem a bit crunchy, but as soon as you've played for like half an hour, you got it. It is quite simple to run, although it might seem a little bit daunting with the 424 pages of the core book. But it is a beast. But it really isn't.
That's a big old book. Yeah.
It is a beast. It was supposed to be a beast, and it turned out to be a beast, but a friendly.
The good kind of beast. Yes.
Exactly. Right, and the theme is, as you touched upon in your, let's call it ramblings, is that humanity is basically torn from Earth at some point in what is it, about 1,000-1,500 years BC. By a cataclysm or a void tempest, as it were, and thrown out amongst the stars and finds themselves scattered across the cosmos. And after a certain amount of time, they congregate in this place called Lin the Eternal, which is a massive cosmopolis ruled by the unseen rulers. And here they find themselves at the bottom of the rung and must struggle to survive in this unfamiliar cosmos they find themselves in, surrounded by aliens and mythical creatures and so on and so forth. And that's sort of the start of it. And then they sort of build from there, because one of my points was to really sort of bring back the wonder of RPGs, which is why I'm trying to introduce a universe that people are unfamiliar with, so that you can actually, discover new things as a player while you play the game. So there's no orcs and trolls and all this stuff, the generic stuff. It's more or less all new creatures and new species and so on and so forth, except for a few mythological, such as Jinn and Anunnaki and that sort of thing. But I don't think you see those too often in the other RPGs either.
No, yeah. And I forgot to mention this, but there is a sweet incentive I forgot to bring up before we get further into this.
Yes.
The Kickstarter is, of course, live now. Thank you for that question, Anna. I'll be taking your question. The Kickstarter is, of course, live now. It is fully funded, as I said, but we're on our way to stretch goals. And if I may bend all of your ear about why you should do this even further, Christoffer has tacked on a lovely reward to this Kickstarter, which is that if you it comes included with some of the pledge tiers, but if you tack on $10 to even would that be even to the lowest pledge tier, Christoffer? If you tack on to get the adventure, you will get a PDF copy of Black Void into the Oblivious Depths, which is an adventure that you will get. This is some instant gratification. As soon as the Kickstarter closes, shortly thereafter, you will get a PDF copy of this, ready to download, ready to play. If you already have the Black Void core rulebook, you can start playing this right away. And I just thought of something, because we joked about this, about retweet goals for this one, and it's become a running gag on Account of Roleplay that we do 69 retweet goals. If this live tweet gets 69 retweets, I will GM you. I will GM people, the people who retweeted it in a game of Oblivious Steps. I will take volunteers, and I will GM you in this, mostly because I just want to do it. So this is my own personal stretch goal. Yes, Mitch, really. Start retweeting that, spread the word. I want as many people to back this Kickstarter as possible, because Christoffer's made a beautiful product and more people should play it. So I will put together a one-shot of this if people can spread it. So start tweeting, folks.
Nice.
But back to the game. Yes, it is a D12 system, which is quite unique, and I think that makes people like me happy, who think that the D12 is the underappreciated gem of the polyhedral dice world. And I love that you've done that, and I love that we talked about this a little bit the other day, Christoffer, but thematically how that serves the kind of universe that you're using. It is a sort of high risk, high reward sort of system that swings back and forth between critical success and critical failure. And I'd just like to ask you about that. Just curious, was that sort of your intention with doing that, that you wanted to really make it just a bigger drama type of system like that? That sort of thing?
I mean, one of the things is that the whole setting is quite dramatic. And I wanted the mechanics to really sort of underline that. And as we were playtesting it, we found that the increased possibility of these sort of dramatic events really added to the story in terms of bringing something new to every encounter as well. So what happens when the exceptional successes and the critical mishaps occur is maybe toned down a little bit from what you see in games where it's more rare, but it all adds to the story, because it seems like, or not it seems like, as we were doing it, we could see that there was a lot of excitement when one of these things happened. And also, one of the things that's a little bit different is that if you roll a critical mishap, which is a natural one, during combat, for instance, it doesn't just affect whoever rolled it necessarily. There are tables, so sometimes what it does, it introduces a new element into the encounter, which again creates more drama and more of a storyline to the entire thing. So it's sort of been balanced with different things to really tell the story, rather than just, oh, you drop your weapon kind of thing, which gets boring very, very quickly, right? So that was one of the things. And also one of the reasons for the D12 is that it converts very easily to other dice types, which are the ones that are used in the game. So it's mainly D12, but sometimes it's D6 or D4, and you can convert the D12 into those quite easily, which is the only dice that actually does that.
Yeah, very smart choice. And also, I gotta say, love the tables. I love tables as a GM, especially. A recovering forever GM, as I call myself. I love tables. I love tables because they make my life easy.
Exactly. Yeah, and they introduce something.
Constantly imagination going, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's just also it. Yeah, because you don't have to consider every possibility. Sometimes it's introduced to you, so it makes arbiting, as we call it in Black Void, more interesting as well, because sometimes you're taken by surprise, which really makes it more endurable, running the game as well in that sense. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy, because I don't get to be a player very often, so I want to make it interesting for arbiters as well, and tables tend to do that.
Yeah, And hey, you mentioned it, and I forgot to draw attention to that, but in this system, the GM is the Arbiter, which is, in my opinion, the most badass title I've heard for a GM in any game. No shade against Call of Cthulhu, but it beats the shit out of Keeper. Arbiter is an awesome title, and talk about this the other day, how that kind of fits the kind of world that you've created. Just a moment, just closing a couple things here. But yeah, this kind of harsh, unforgiving world in which humanity is really on the bottom rung, and there's there's no real hope for there's not a whole lot of hope of rising out of that sort of low rung that they find themselves in. They're kind of stuck on the bottom.
It was always just a fool's hope.
I did not expect a Gandalf quote to come up from this. But,
well, it's there somewhere, No, but the thing is, so you're right, but at the same time, there is the hope in terms of exploring new things and really building it. And that's one of the things as well, that this is not just about the player characters, it's also about humanity being in a new place. So you can sort of take it in many different directions. You can focus on just the players themselves, you can focus on building the enclaves of the communes for humanity at large, and so on and so forth, and ensuring their place in this unfamiliar cosmos. So it's which is why we have the tagline "Survival is only the beginning," because if you can sort of get to that stage, then you can start to build on that, and that's ingrained into the mechanics as well, because you have the different casts that you start out on as you do your character creation, but we have a concept called Wasta as well, which is basically sort of your personal clout. And your connections and so on, and as you progress and as you build connections and or interact with different NPCs and higher ups and high casts and so on, you can build your clout with them, and you can actually rise above the muck. So it's not just a storytelling device; it's ingrained into the mechanics as well, which is what I wanted to do, and which is why it has its own mechanics, because I wanted the mechanics to support the story that we're telling. Which is why we have, like I said, Wasta, and we have a concept called enlightenment as well, which is basically understanding existence, as it were, because you have the cosmos on the one hand, and then you have the void on the other, which is sort of unreality beyond reality, which is how you travel between worlds. And you have to, you can't just instantly understand that. That's built into the mechanics, that you have to become enlightened to really understand that and be able to travel between the different worlds.
So before we get into the new book, Poke World Build, one of our good Chaos Chorus members here, asks, is this game intended for long-term play? I guess he means long-form campaigns, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the intent of it. That's what I enjoy. One of the things that I enjoy most about RPGs or TTRPGs is really building a character and seeing them progress over the long-term play. It works for one-shots, but for me, the really enjoyable part is, building the characters over campaigns and so on and so forth. And I think that's where the system and the world really sort of shines, because you go from being bottom rung into something more, and into becoming an integral part of this world and of this cosmos. So I think that's really where it is, and that's why, even though we have published some sort of shorter adventures, they can all be tied into greater stories, and in some of them, like Dark Dealings in the Shaded Sook, which was released couple of months ago. There are sort of hints and little bits and bobs that tie into the grand campaign, which is part of Under Nebulous Skies. So there are little tie-ins here and there to really sort of underline long.
So you've been laying some breadcrumbs for a while here, getting things.
There are a
weaving
few
together.
breadcrumbs, yeah, and there are tie-ins to the first adventure that we published as well, which was Those Who Would Be Gods. There are a couple of recurring figures
which
in
I just
there
bought
as well.
yesterday.
So, oh, did you? Excellent.
Just picked it up yesterday.
So yeah, what I like is to have like those moments where like, but that's the guy from there, or that's the woman from there, and so on. That's what I enjoy, in movies and that sort of thing. So that's what I want to sprinkle in there as well. So I think in pretty much all of them, there are recurring characters and NPCs that you can like. So you get little hints and bits and bobs. But they're not in the sense that if you don't have or play all of them, that you lose anything. But it's that sort of Easter egg kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as Christopher said, while it is totally meant for long-term play, long-form play, it also can be good for one-shots, which is why I will GM all of you in a one-shot if you retweet that tweet. It will work, I promise. So let's get into the new stuff. You gave me a lovely segue there in talking about creating your character and then moving up as things go on. So one of the really the cool new stuff, and whenever a new supplement comes out for an RPG, this is always the first thing I look for. The first thing I ask is, what are the new character options? What new cool stuff can we do? And you have put a lot of cool new character options into Under Nebulous Skies. All of these new things we can do. So kind of part one of Under Nebulous Skies is all of these new options. And one thing I'd like to particularly highlight that's kind of new to this is that you can now be not just human, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Still a little
in the
human,
core book,
but not just human.
Yeah, exactly. A tiny bit, just because it needs to tie in with the concept that your humanity is stuck at the bottom rung. In the core book, you had the half-blood option as well, which is half human, half something else. But we wanted to crystallize that, and a lot of people have been asking, when do we get to play some of the other sentient species? But doing that sort of takes away from the main concept that you are a human stuck in this unfamiliar cosmos. But what I wanted to do was to really take that idea but keep the framework. So what we've done now is we've created different versions of half-bloods. So you can create characters that are half human and half a specific of the other sentient species. So you can play a half Jinn, you can play a half Ji'eel, you can play a half Talath, some of the prominent species within this game. And in that way, you really sort of tie in with the cosmos a little bit more, and you get more of a taste of what these species actually are, and you get to interact with the culture in a different way than you would based on what you had in the core book. So I think that's really, really neat, and I think a lot of people are quite excited about that feature coming on there as well.
I am, yeah, certainly.
I am as well.
I wanted to ask you about that. I just wanted to double down on that. You mentioned how, it wouldn't be Black Void really if you could just be one of the alien species. That's sort of kind of almost in a way, it takes away from the whole underlying concept of the game, right? That you still have to have that humanity.
Yeah, it would be a different game. I'm not saying it won't happen at some point in the future, because it could be interesting as well. But as the general or basic framework of the entire thing is that you are a human, and you are, as a player, discovering this cosmos alongside your character. So if you're not at least partially human, that bit is kind of lost,
I love the way you say that, though, that restoring the kind of sense of wonder of RPGs. And I think I think we were hitting on the same thing when, during my intro rambling, as we've now called it, I mentioned how I like RPGs that challenge me, that challenge my preconceptions of what an RPG is and what a fantasy or sci-fi universe looks like. And this the game you've created, this world you've created, absolutely does. It's so new and so foreign and so interesting, and the game itself is so new and interesting and foreign, and then in the game you're playing someone who is in a universe that is new and interesting and foreign and also terrifying. And
Exactly.
I love how that plays in. Yeah, that's beautiful. Quickly, what can you tell us about these two species options we have here, the Geelkin and the Talethkin? Very stunning artwork you have.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some amazing artists working with me, so that's really, really cool. But these two are probably some of the most popular of the species in the Black Void cosmos. The Talath is sort of a big, burly, almost ogre-ish type of species, but definitely with its own sort of culture and sense of species and so on and so forth. And I think quite a lot of people have built characters that sort of emulate them, but now they can actually get to do one which is half Talath. So that's gonna be quite cool. And what it does as well is that it ties into when you encounter the actual Talath, that there are some bonuses to that and so on, to really sort of build that culture into the entire setting. And the same goes for the Jeel, which is the Jeel themselves used to be an old huge empire that was colonizing a lot of the worlds in the cosmos, but then something happened and they withdrew. So now it's become sort of a self-focused, hedonistic, narcissistic, belly button looking kind of empire, but still quite powerful. And people have been wondering about those as well. And now you get to be a half Jeel, which is really quite interesting as well, to tie in with that, ancient void-faring culture, but at the same time retaining your connection to humanity as well. And since they used to be these ones, you can start at a higher caste than regular characters can. So you get to taste a little bit of that higher tier, so to say.
Yeah, get to taste a little bit of how the other half lives, or the other
Exactly.
1% really.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sound like space Bernie Sanders right now. So the it is interesting. And how does that, you think, change? Okay, so you mentioned obviously you could start at a higher caste. You probably have more access to higher rungs of society, especially if you're playing as like a Geelkin. How does that change in the Black Void universe? How does that change the way other humans interact with you? How are these sort of half races treated in this universe?
Well, that's one of the interesting aspects, because the half-bloods are generally more easily played within Lin amongst the other species, but a lot of humanity then all of a sudden has a bit of a, but you're not human, I'm not sure I like you anymore kind of thing, So all of a sudden they're sort of caught in the halfway point. So they might have easier access to the rest of Lin, but then all of a sudden the background with humanity is all of a sudden put a little bit into perspective. So it's sort of there are advantages and disadvantages to sort of every choice that you make, and that's really one of the things that makes it interesting as well, particularly for the arbiters as well, because there's a lot of aspects that you can sort of play on. Because if all of a sudden you have a higher caste, then you might seem suspicious to the lower caste, which might be your fellow players, or the human enclaves that you're trying to interact with as well. So there's always something going on in terms of, well, if I do this, then it's going to have consequences here, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really sort of adding to the depth of the game, and not just making things easier, although some things obviously do become easier. There's always a cost, so to say.
Right. Yeah. That's what I love about this, though. That's what I love about these new player options in particular. A lot of other role-playing games will come out with new cool stuff. I mean, I don't know where they would put it. It's just we have a game, you're all knights and wizards and whatnot, and then we come out with a supplement, and now you can play as different kinds of cool knights and wizards and stuff. And it's mostly just, it's cool new stuff. It's new options, it's new spells and new stuff like that, new weapons, whatever. And it's just a different way to be a big damn hero, basically. A different flavor of big damn hero. And what I love about these is that these new player options aren't just cool new stuff. They change the way your character moves through this universe. They change the way that they're perceived, and the way that they interact with people. And instead of just being cool new stuff, they are both cool new stuff and rich lore that's being added to the world also, that puts a whole new spin on the universe.
Exactly. It makes some of the lore that was already there more accessible to players as well, which is what I think supplements need to do, because you need to be able to access the cosmos more and more as you progress, obviously, and that's one of the points, but while retaining, let's say, the core theme of the game. And that's what I'm definitely trying to achieve with this, which is, you go more granular, you go more crystallized into what are all the different aspects, but you retain what attracted you to the game in the first place, as you do this, which is definitely a balance. But I think with this, we're definitely achieving it.
Yes, absolutely. So there's also, in addition to the new character background options, we also have new stuff. We have new skills, new talents, some new weapons, and fun stuff like that. Are there any of those that you think are particularly, like, for example, the new like talents and skills, like stuff that you think really adds some new rich kind of stuff to the game?
I think some of the new attributes and talents are really quite interesting. There you have like a thing like the symbiotic bond, for instance, which is where you have a connection with one of the other players, so you can kind of not read each other's minds, but there's a link, same as you have with twins in real world, for instance, where they instantly know what the other person's thinking or how they want to act and so on and so forth. So I wanted to simulate that as well. So that's one of the new ones. That's quite cool. And you have some new esoteric attributes, which are the more sort of otherworldly ones, with translucence being one, for instance, so you can all of a sudden do some stuff that's really, really weird. And I think that's one of the things that really attracted players to Black Void as well, is that because the character creation is points by and there are sort of no limits, you can do whatever you want. So you can have a starting character which, although he or she is partly human, they have maybe horns or wings or fangs or halos or whatever you want. It's all in there, so you can really do all these things. So what this does is it just adds to the plethora of options that you really have when you're building your character. So that's quite cool.
That is quite cool.
And then we're adding some new weapons as well, because who doesn't like new weapons,
Everyone loves cool new stuff.
Exactly, it's all about the gadgets. So we have some punching daggers and a Sueya dagger, which you can see on the Kickstarter at the moment, cool which is tri-bladed dagger. Exactly, which is so badass. Cool and basically based off an Indian weapon from back in the day. So there's tons of Kopesh is not in there, because it's it can be at some point, but it's not there yet. I looked a little bit more to the east, potentially because I moved to Singapore, so now it's more sort of Eastern oriented, I guess, a little bit. Yeah. Because you get inspired by where you live, obviously. So, but there's tons of little bits and bobs that you can do to tweak your character and add new interesting elements as well, not just for players but for arbiters as well. So new player stuff is awesome, and I love how it adds new. A lot of what I'm seeing, because I'm seeing this through a GM's lens, is it's adding new things to the GM's toolkit. There's just new avenues to explore, new plots to explore, like even player options, even things that are on the at first gloss.
for player characters adds something new to the GM's toolkit. It's new ways to interact.
Yeah, because for your NPCs and all that stuff, you can definitely add things, and you have new things for the players to be interested in. Because I mean, if they all of a sudden see a weapon that they've never seen before, that's like, but that's a GM tool to introduce these things. So because I look through both lenses because I want to appeal to both sides. But being a GM primarily, I want to make that job easier and more interesting than it sometimes can be, because it's a lot of work being a GM, I'll tell you, and obviously, and I'm sure all the GMs here can empathize with that. So I want to make it as interesting for the arbiters and GMs as well. And
more
I'm hoping
tables.
that this supplement really does that.
So I want to talk about the travelogue now. Before we get there, Anna, your most recent Kickstarter backer, has a question. Does the Under Nebulous Skies book include the basic core rules needed to play the game, or do you need a separate core book?
No, it doesn't. There's the core rulebook, which you need to get, or you can actually download the Quick Start for free on DriveThruRPG or through the Modifius web shop. It's a 30-something page, and it actually includes an abridged version of character creation, unlike most Quick Starts, because character creation is one of the things that make Black Void stand out. So that's actually in there. So you can download that right now, along with a one-shot adventure called The Flight from Salvation Square. That's also for free. So basically, you can download the whole package and you can just get started.
All right. We'll get the link for that and drop it in chat for those of you who want those quick start rules. We will definitely get that up there if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, let's talk about the travelogue. So talking about GM's toolkit, oh boy. This is where the GM's toolkit really expands, and this is the part of the book that I'm most excited about.
Right.
So first of all, let's talk about just kind of quickly the setting of Black Void. The primary setting is the city of Lynn, the eternal city, the city of Lynn, which is fair to say center of just civilization in this world, pretty much.
Well, it's central to this story, at least. What Lynn is that it's a cosmopolis ruled by somebody called the Unseen Rulers, and they are that because you never actually interact with them. They're just sort of there as a menacing aspect that kind of oversees this place. And Lynn is kind of. But they act through agents, and they have a Genisar, which is sort of their standing army, and they have something called the Horlekin, which is their like big bad agents that you don't want to cross those, because they will definitely destroy you if you do. And so it's kind of a dystopian yet utopian setting at the same time, this place, because there's horror and there's wonder and so on and so forth, and that's kind of the main thing. And what happens here is that you have access to a lot of the cosmos through the void rifts or void ruptures that you can find here. And that's why it is as affluent as it is, because it's sort of a trade hub. So everybody comes here.
I heard this said once that every great RPG needs a place like Lynn, that you need that the classic Mediterranean hub city, the kind of Alexandria or the kind of like Constantinople, the place where everyone just comes together, that crossroads area. And this is a beautiful example of that.
Exactly. Yeah, crossroads of the worlds kind of thing. And that is exactly what was intended, because it's where everybody congregate, but it's also where you can go forth and explore the cosmos as well. But it's more than that, because it's where humanity sort of congregated after the fall of Earth. So you have at least 3 human enclaves in here, and each of them has its own flavor. So they're a little bit different. So you can focus on that as well, in terms of, well, which enclave do you want to be involved with? Is it the one that's more sort of focused on making good with all the other species, or is it the one that's focused on humanity is the greatest and we're going to try to get to the top of the tier and just push our way through everybody else? Or is it more sort of the survivalist where they just scurry about the alleyways and tries to build sort of an underworld empire? So there's a lot of these things in there, and that's just for humanity. Then you have all the other sentient species and all of the other esoteric species that are here as well. And it's built into, it has 7 different districts, and the travelogue here focused on the 2 meanest of those, which is where you will primarily find humanity.
So if I'm saying Kima and Doris, the 2 kind
exactly.
of lowest rung, fair to say, sort of slum shantytown kind of districts.
Kima is definitely slum and shantytown. Doris is a little bit above that. It's sort of where you have the wharves and the docks and the warehouse districts and the foundries and workshops and all that.
The working
stuff.
class
so
kind of districts, right?
Yeah, kind of, exactly. So, but this is where you find humanity the most. So I wanted to sort of start focusing on those, going a bit more granular and crystallizing what's really going on here, and really sort of breathing more life into that than you have in the core book. The core book gives a nice framework, but with this one, I wanted to really sort of deep dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah. So what are some of the kind of new cool like locations within Kima and Doris to kind of tease the beautiful stuff you can see here? What are some of the particular, you mentioned granular, some of the more, particularized, unique locations that are in these districts?
Right. Some of it is the stuff that's sort of just briefly touched upon in the core book, like Beggar's Court, where you have one of the human enclaves. But here we really do a deep dive, so you get a detailed map of what Beggar's Court actually looks like, and you get to meet some of the people that are there. We deep dive more into Salvation Square, which is obviously touched upon in the adventure flight from Salvation Square. We deep dive into the Pestilence, which is this area that's sort of cordoned off where you have lepers and plague bearers and all this stuff. So that's some of the stuff. And then you have in Doris, you deep dive more into the docks and the lower docks and the midnight market and all these places that it's mentioned in the core book, but you don't really deep dive into it. So there's going to be a lot of more granular maps and comprehensive descriptions and introductions of NPCs. So really expanding on, like you said before, the toolbox that is available to the arbiters as they go through this. So a lot of locations, a lot of maps, a lot of NPCs, and we do the same as we did in the core book, which is we have plot hooks, thrown in here and there to really sort of inspire arbiters to come up with new things, because as we all know, players tend to veer off the path, and they're supposed to, as they go exploring.
That's the fun. That's the fun.
Exactly. So what we want to do with this as well is provide tools for arbiters to quite easily, grasp that and intertwine, new ideas into that. So, you're going that way. Well, I don't have anything planned, but let me just have a look. Oh, there's a plot hook there. Let's run with that one,
Yeah, I mean, I think every good RPG source book should have like a pop-out box on every page that's like, so your players just did some crazy shit. Here's what you do now. They did something you didn't
and that's what we tried to do.
Yeah, they went off the rails. They just want to. And hey, I think it in a book like this and in a setting like this, it's almost incumbent to do that kind of thing because, as you said, sense of wonder. It's also new and so foreign. The first thing you want to do is explore. You want to see it. You want to get out and walk around and get to know it. And what I love about what you've done with this book is you've provided so many tools. So if your players decide they just want to go see stuff, you have stuff to show them. There's tables to consult. There's beautiful locations to show them. There's all these fantastical locations, and it's all laid out right there for you. Save yourself a whole lot of headache and introduce them to something cool and interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And make it interesting for the arbiter as well, because he or she gets to explore alongside the players with this.
And we talked about this the other day, Christopher, but this is just Kimandaris. There's obviously more districts to Lynn than this, and they move higher up the rung, all the way up to the Morning Palace, where the unseen rulers themselves actually reside.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's your intention as we go on, right? As you do more of these, that we will, you will. I keep saying we like I work for you. That you will
Okay.
slowly be.
I like you to feel a part of it. Everybody's a part of it.
I feel at home. Yes, I feel at home. That you will be releasing those as we go along. That we'll get to see more and more of Lynn up close, really under a microscope, the way you put it here. Yeah. So keep backing Christopher's Kickstarter so you can see that.
Keep doing these.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, now the kind of third thing that we get out of this, speaking of, again, segues, speaking of future releases, is Nebulous Skies also comes with the first part of a new campaign, the Grand Campaign Act 1, essentially. So what can you tell us about this new adventure we have in here?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, obviously.
Spoiler free, yeah, spoiler free.
I might overstep my bounds and say something that I'm not supposed to. But anyways, as we were asked before whether this is intended for long-term play, I really wanted to make a comprehensive campaign to really sort of dig deep into all of the themes and concepts that you can with Black Void, because it is a game where you can combine a ton of different genres, a ton of different concepts and different themes all in one. So you can do your investigation, you can do your horror, you can do your adventure, but you can do your exploration, you can do cultural tension, you can do court intrigue, you can do all these things. And what I wanted to do was to really take not just the players but the arbiters on a journey all the way through Lynn, but also through a lot of the worlds that are actually in this cosmos. And I thought the best way to do that was to do a grand campaign where you really get to explore all these bits. So the first part is you start in the Daris and the Kima districts. So you really get to explore those through the different goings on. But then at some point you also go off-world. I'm not going to say where, but you get to explore some other cultures as well. It's not Lynn, exactly. And so this actually is, it's tied to the travelogue in the sense that some of it is taking place here. So there's really a nice tie-in between the three different parts, because you have the campaign, which focuses somewhat on Kima and Daris, and there you also get to see some of the stuff from character creation actually played out in some of the species that you meet, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a nice tie-in to bring everything sort of together. And what it does is it really focuses on the core of what Black Void really is, and that's one of the things that I like. So you think this campaign it reinforces the central themes of Black Void? Is that how you mean? It enforces it, but it also, I think, expands a little bit on them, makes it sort of crystallizes them a little bit more, in terms of this is how it was intended from our side, but now it's in your hands, so go wherever you want with it, kind of thing, you know? Because that's one of the interesting things for me as well, is to see where do people actually take this, because I get inspired by seeing, you know, how other people take what I've done and then take it to a new level or take it in a new direction, and so on and so forth. So which is also why it's written in the way that it is. It's not, I don't like adventures that are sort of like, this is the way to go and this is the only option you have, and so on. I want to expand on that. So all encounters have multiple ways you can deal with them, and depending on how you do that, it obviously changes the narrative and opens up new stuff and new options, and so on and so forth. Which makes it a little bit difficult to kind of get all the threads together. Obviously, at some points I might be screwing myself doing it that way, but that's the way I want to tell stories, you know? And I think that's the way people that play Black Void want to do stories as well.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I used to be one of those GMs who over prepped the hell out of every
Yeah.
session. I think I think GMs, especially newer GMs, fall into that trap. You try to account for every eventuality, and you just can't do it. I mean, I knew that I was going too far when I was making flowcharts of things. Like, it's ridiculous, you know. You can't.
I do
But
that,
what's
but I
great,
kind of have to because it's official, right?
well, you know what I love though is that the way you've structured some of this, like you said, there's you know, every encounter has
Yeah.
multiple ways you can run it. There's the book
Mm.
actually does a lot of that heavy lifting for you. It has a lot of
Yeah.
that. So they did this, do that, you know, and it's not rails. It's not a railroad. You don't have to do it, but it lays out
It's
options
options.
before you to work with. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm. Yeah.
And again, you're so kind to GMs. That's so nice of you.
Well, I try to make my own work easier for myself because I know I'm gonna GM this stuff. So obviously, I know how I want it to be presented to me, and I think I probably don't do it differently from most other GMs. So I want it, like you said, again with the toolbox. I want to lay it out there and make it as easy and as simple for the GMs to really just dive into it. And if we succeeded that, then I'm happy. I mean, the feedback we've gotten so far is that it works in terms of it is easily accessible, and it kind of provides you with the tools and the framework that you need, but it's not too granular and too sort of narrowly structured that you can't veer off or do what you want with it. And that's really how I want it to be. I want it to be sort of a platform for GMs to make it their own, but while having that sort of guiding hand in how to do that. So that's what we're trying to do, and tell an exciting story that really grabs people and really offers something new and interesting to them.
Well, speaking of exciting stories, this is just, I mean, this is Grand Campaign Opus 1. You obviously intend to do more of these, right? There's more coming.
Well, it's planned as a trilogy. So this is part 1, and then when we start to dig into part 2, that will be another supplement like this. So you will have 2 other districts that will really, go into the depths of. There's probably going to be a character creation bit in there as well, and then obviously we'll do a 3rd one later on. So good things to look forward to.
Everybody loves a good trilogy. I know I do.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's going to take you as you go on with these. And by the way, are you planning basically is your sort of plan that every forthcoming book after this is going to have a similar structure of new player options, new locations, and then a new campaign, that kind of stuff?
Well, the next 3 ones. Well, okay. So we're kind of doing 2 different things. So we're doing the supplements, which will have that structure, but at the same time, we're doing sort of standalone adventures, where Dark Dealings and the Shaded Souk was 1. Although, like I said before, there are Easter eggs tying into the Grand Campaign. We have another one which is called Into the Oblivious Depths, which is an add-on, or the pre-launch of it is an add-on to the Kickstarter at the moment. So that's another standalone. And then we have other standalones that are either being written or getting ready to be written at the same time right now. But there I'm working with other authors, so they conceive of the storylines and so on. Obviously, I can't keep my hands out of it, so I get involved heavily as well. But it's not my kind of thing, in that sense. Exactly. So we're doing sort of two simultaneous lines. So one is the Grand Campaign, and then you have the standalone coming out at the same time.
Yeah, and that is so much cool content to look forward to. I love that the Black Void universe continues to expand before our very eyes, and as you keep doing these Kickstarters, we're gonna keep getting more and more cool stuff to play with, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. Now that we know that this one's happening, now that you've been funded, I am again party hardy. Thank you to everybody that backed. Anna, we love you, appreciate it. But keep going, keep funding, because I want that map.
We want the map.
people demand the map. We demand a resolution. I want a high resolution
demand the
map. Yes. Well, I think you can find a way to get one. I'm sure you can talk to somebody, Christopher. You can get yourself a map, right?
You think? Yeah, you may. I might know somebody. I don't know. We'll see.
You might. Yeah. I feel like you know an artist or two.
Yeah.
So that's about the hour there.
Wow. That flew by.
Yeah, I know. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So
I know.
So there's the beautiful books, Under Nebulous Skies, the core rulebook, and Into Oblivious Depths. Here's a beautiful one that sits on my shelf, and I will be playing shortly. Ambitious goal of me to think we could get 69 retweets in less than an hour. However, I'm probably going to still run a Black Void game anyway, because why not?
Yeah,
Hit me up if you want to play. The Kickstarter, Black Void Under Nebulous Skies, is still live. It is live for another 13 hours. It ends tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, November 14th. It is already funded, but it is on its way to that first major stretch goal, which is an absolutely beautiful map that all of you should want, and I want you to help me get. So please go pledge now. If you pledge to the campaign and you add on that $10, although some of the higher pledge tiers, it comes included already, but if you pledge that $10, you will get Black Void Into the Oblivious Depths, a PDF pre-release of that standalone adventure that looks super fun and absolutely beautiful. And so that, if that's not incentive enough, get out there and pledge. And I mean, the one I'm really, Chris, if I had the spare money, I would definitely be pledging at that tier that lets me put an NPC in your game, which is one of the options, folks. It's out there.
It is. I think there's still a couple available of those.
Yeah, I think there's only one
just
left.
one left?
Maybe just one, yeah. And one, create a location is in that pledge tier too. For $119, you can add a location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so... Oh, yeah, so add a location. There's two different tiers. Add a location, and there's 5 left to add an NPC. So how cool is that?
So you
get your head
your own
in there.
character.
Yeah, put your stamp on Black Void.
Exactly, because that's what we want. We want your inspiration and your thoughts as well.
Of course, yes, we are all part of this, as you said. Christopher, what would you like the Chaos Chorus to hear before we sign off? What would you like to hear about Black Void, about Nebulous Skies, about yourself? Anything?
About myself? Nothing.
That one option. See, I'm doing the thing you do. I'm giving you options. See?
I know.
GM's tool.
Well, first of all, I'm so thankful to everybody who has pledged and supported. And we have a great community on Discord, so you can join us there. I'm there pretty much 24/7. We've got play-by-posts running. We've got people just asking rule questions and just chatting away. So that's really, really a great community to be part of, and you're welcome to join, obviously. As Colin said, we really want that map, so please help us make it happen. And like he said, it's open for another 12, 13 hours, so bring it there. And it's we have a 15% off on all Black Void products at the moment, both through Drive-Thru RPG and the Modifius web shop. So if you're really wanting to get into it, there's a good option to get it at a good price at the moment. So that's really cool. Can we get a minute to the Black Void Discord? Of course you can. I will post that in the chat. Let me just see.
Christopher is adding a link to the Black Void Discord for those of you who want to get involved in and get to know that community that way, and chat with Christopher via Discord and talk about the game.
Yep. Exactly. It's copied. Hang on. I'm just trying to maneuver multiple screens at the moment. There we go. It's in the chat.
All right, there's the link to the Black Void Games Discord. Go check that out. Join that community, especially if you're considering, if you're already a player of this game, or you're considering becoming one, or considering backing, whatever. There's so much to learn, and you get to talk to Christopher and learn more about this beautiful universe that he's created, and you get to be part of it.
Yeah, we
So,
want you to join. We want to see you there. We want to hear your ideas. We want to see your characters. We want it all, including that map.
we want the map, definitely. And Christopher, now you don't know your ass. I'm gonna be definitely putting Black Void character art. Well, when I say character art, I mean things that I made on Hero Forge. I'll probably be putting in your Discord. I'm gonna spam you with my Black Void characters. Don't you worry.
Do it. Do it. I want to see it.
Oh, I shall. So, it's been so great talking to you, Chris. I love your game, and I want everyone to play it because it's so cool. So please, Chaos Chorus, support this game. Pick up a copy. Available, as you said, the core rulebook's available through Modifius and Drive-Thru RPG. Is that right?
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. So check it out. Get yourself a copy, and please back the Kickstarter. And we look forward. To playing this game and traveling this haunted, dark cosmos with all of you in the near future. So I think that's about all we have time for tonight, Christopher. Much appreciate everyone stopping by. Anything we missed? Did we cover everything?
No, well, there's just the thing that they're doing character creation over at level 1 right now.
All right. Well, we should, yes. So we're going to be raiding, if y'all stick around, we're going to be raiding into level 1 where they are doing Black Void character creation. So how beautiful of a dovetail is that? You get to see how this works in practice. So let's take a look. Well, that is all for us tonight. I am Colin at Colinomicon. I've been your host. You'll find me around the Encounter Roleplay Discord too much, probably, all the time. And I'll see all of you on... I'm not going to pitch all my stuff right now, but all the stuff I do in Encounter Roleplay, I'll see you all around. And Christopher, anything left to say before we sign off?
I will see you all in the void.
See you on the other side. All right, folks. Good night, and we're going to go take a look at some Black Void character creation now. Good night, everybody.
Two years ago, you helped us to create the Black Void core rulebook. Since then, we've gone on harrowing and wondrous journeys together. And now, we want to take you even further into the void with this grand campaign, travelogue, and sourcebook merged into one comprehensive work. In this first part of the grand campaign trilogy, a desperate cry for help leads the protagonists deep into the underworld of Kima, amongst nefarious gangs amassing wealth, power, crushing or enslaving anyone getting in their way. As unknown powers haunt the fringes of awareness, threatening the very subsistence of humanity, reconciling the fractured and clashing human factions of Lin might bring benefit to us all. But playing them out against each other to gain the advantage may possibly be the only viable option to uncover the aspirations of an obscure entity with its gaze fixed firmly on the descendants of Earth. The character creation section is a quintessential resource for players and arbiters alike, offering new and remarkable possibilities when creating characters and NPCs. New attributes and background options now enable players to play half-blood characters such as half Talath, half JL, and others. Multiple new weapons and combat skills add further possibilities and excitement to combat, while resources for outfitting and crewing your own Void vessel gives a whole new range of possibilities for exploring the Void and cosmos. The Voidfarer's travelogue explores the slums of Kima and the thronged docks and inner areas of the Darisi district. Each area description is packed with numerous locations, maps, NPCs, plot hooks, and more to breathe life into these two remarkable districts of Lin the Eternal. The species section provides new horrific threats for whom humanity is nothing but pests or sustenance, while known beasts get full profile and stat blocks, and new sentient species bring added diversity and variety to NPCs, antagonists, and allies. We need your help to make this book the best it can be, retaining the Black Void standard of abundant, high-quality art, beautifully laid out pages, enticing writing, and premium production printing. We'll see you in the void, where survival is only the beginning.